Hey there, District 9. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today is December 21st at 8 o'clock a.m. So I appreciate all of you all that are listening in live. I am so excited to come to you. Listen, this is the last month of our year. And so today, as we recap a couple things in District 9, talk about what the future holds for our districts, it was really important for me to bring on Miss Bell, who I'm really excited to introduce you all to, um, about mental health. And so let me have Miss Bell introduce herself. I think the super cool thing here is that Miss Bell is also a parent of a scholar right here in Prince George's County. And so I love when we are able to talk to our administration who are also parents because I think it just hits a little differently. And she also resides in District 9. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, Miss Bell.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So I'm Miss Bell, and I'm the newest mental health coordinator in Port George's County Public Schools, and I'm excited to be here. I'm transitioning from being a mental health specialist in Virginia, so I have a mental health background as well as school counseling. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, thank you for being here at 8 a.m. So we'll have some people watching us live. We'll have some people that might throw in questions, and then we'll have some people that watch the replay and might have questions. And so I'll send them as I get them, just so we can have all the information to all of District 9 and whoever else might get this in Prince George's County. So let's just jump right into it. So for folks watching, my goal today is to talk mental health. We'll talk that in a second, but also to take you through the Take 9 pledge that I'm super excited about in District 9, to also take you through some key dates that's coming up. We'll go through the newsletter if we have time. And also, it's budget season. And we've already started the budget cycle. You know that the school district or Prince George's County PGCPS holds 62% of the county's budget. So I want to take you all through some important dates to really take a look at, give thoughts, recommendations, questions, all of the things. We on January 11th are going to have a budget review right here in our district. More information to come, but I'm super excited about that too. So let's jump into mental health. And this came about because I also have a scholar in middle school right here in Prince George's County. And one of the things I do know and data tells us is that there is so much pressure on our young people, right? So much pressure. And it's more pressure, I feel, with social media and things that weren't available to us or to me when I was coming up. And so I was hoping you could talk a little bit about what are signs what signs exist when there's someone who might be struggling in any facet of their life and they're a scholar at school?
So there are a couple of signs, and we kind of categorize them. So there are like the physical signs. If your scholar is consistently complaining about a headache, a stomach ache, if you're noticing that they're having a difficult time like falling asleep or wanting to sleep longer, those are some physical signs that maybe something is going on, especially if they're out of the norm, if that is not their normal like routine or behavior. Then there's some behavioral signs. So if you notice that your scholar is like withdrawing from friends and family, um, withdrawing from activities or sports that they used to enjoy participating in, that also might be a sign that something, may be amiss. And then also there's some emotional or psychological signs. So if you see that they're like overly anxious or worried or irritable or short tempered, or they have like sadness that lasts a long period of time. So again, if you see these signs and symptoms and they're kind of out of your child's norm, that might be a sign that maybe there's something else going on. That talk to your scholar, reach out for help.
Okay. And then, no, thank you for sharing that. I think sometimes as parents, you see things and you make an excuse for it. and it's like, oh no, they're going through a lot, or there's a lot going on, and that just might be something. So what type of resources does Prince George's County offer? Can you talk to us about that, if you start to see these type of signs at home?
So, if you start to see these types of signs at home, and let me address your first question. Yes, sometimes as parents, we do kind of say, oh, well, they're going through a lot, or they're teenagers, they're growing. But again, if it's something that you see that is out of the norm or a complete like opposite of what your child has been like, then that's definitely a sign that maybe there's something else to explore. Especially if you see that, you know, they were enjoying their sports activities, enjoying hanging out with friends, and now they're isolating in their room with the door shut. Um, we want to really get ahead of those things and not kind of classify them as normal, like teenage angst. So the resources that we have in Prince George's County is first starting school based. We have services within all of our schools from mental health clinicians. So parents are able to reach out to their school psychologist or school counselor to discuss a referral to the mental health clinician within the schools. We also have free teletherapy for all of our students through Hazel Health, and it's at no cost to parents. So that is another resource for Prince George's County parents. So if your child is K to 12, they have access to Hazel Health services. And then we also have community partnerships with many different partners, mental health providers throughout Prince George's County. If parents go on the PGC,
ps.org.
no, give me 1 second. Oh, so the PGC Health Zone is a resource locator for mental health and substance abuse services. So it will ask you to type in your zip code, and it will provide you services that are within your area.
Okay, I'm looking it up now so I can put it in the chat for people. PGC Health Zone. I actually haven't been to this site.
Yeah, so it's a map. It's easy to navigate. You can click on like the map where you live or type in your zip code, and it will provide you mental health resources within your area.
Let me go to it so I could show the folks that might be looking on. And so this is the PGC Health Zone.
Go to community resources.
Mm-hmm.
Click.
Oh, okay. Let me make this a little larger. Uh-oh. So we can see Oxon Hill, which is District 8, but right next door, near Silver Hill Road, so Forestville in our area anyway. Okay, and so you were saying that you can take your scholar to one of these locations directly?
Yes. So they're all available and accessible to scholars within Prince George's County.
Okay. I'll make sure that I put this in the chat. 1 second. Okay. Yes, that is great. 1 sec. And I'll also add it to my next newsletter. I want to just show the folks. So it's pgchealthzone.org. And when you go to community resources, you click on behavioral health partners. And in our area or near closest to our area were 2. So take a look at that and make sure you share it. That's part of our Take 9 pledge, is to make sure you share with 9 people all the resources that we have available or that we share that's available in District 9 and beyond. So no, thank you so much for that. So you talked a little bit about what symptoms exist. And I think too, seasonal depression is real. I know some adults that struggle with that. And I was wondering if you could talk about, like, let's say people are coming home for the summer. I mean, for the winter break. Okay. And you start to see something, or your child might say something to you about how they're feeling? And what do you do over the break? What would you suggest?
So over the break, I think that yes, holiday stress is real. We're talking about a change in routines and schedules, and opportunities to hang out with family and friends, and so all of that can be overwhelming for both parents and our scholars, right? And so you want to make sure that during the holiday season, you're setting realistic expectations. You can't be everywhere doing everything. And so you want to make sure that you're setting realistic expectations about who you're going to visit, how long you're going to stay for the visit. Um, you want to be mindful of, like, if your scholar is like demonstrating out of the norm behaviors, that maybe they're overstimulated, and so maybe it's time to either like break off and find a quiet space or even leave the event, right? You want to make sure that you're practicing self-care, and one of the ways that I like to do that is like through the practice of mindfulness. So just taking a few minutes a day to sit in a quiet space and do some deep breathing and reflecting. um, and then if you start to see the signs and symptoms that we talked about earlier, that knowing it's okay to seek help. Again, most of our community partnerships and Hazel Health are open through the holidays. Dr. Faison put in the chat our PGCPS mental health guide, which has additional resources. And so there are tons of resources out there to make sure that if you need extra assistance, that it is available. And also like practicing like and modeling healthy coping strategies for our children. One thing that I like to do is ensuring that I'm still on my routine about like walking and exercising, right? Because that is like one of my coping skills. And so just staying on those routines.
Oh, that's very good. Thank you. I'm going to click on this mental health guide, and I'll create a bit.ly for it as well for folks that's looking on. One second. Let me just present it. Yes, I'm pretty sure that I have actually shared this in the community before, but it's never too early or late to continue to share something like this. So this is let me just, one second. Uh-oh. What did I do? There it is. Okay. Okay, so we can see it a little larger now. Here's some resources as well. So on the left, we have training and education for student supports, counseling supports, and resources. Oh, this is very good. Family supports. Oh, can you talk to me about do we still have the Wednesday, Mental Health Wednesday? Do you know about
Yes.
Wednesday?
Yeah, so Wellness Wednesday, yes, we
Yeah.
do still have Wellness Wednesday. It's quarterly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I know that they're posted on the PGCPS YouTube channel as well. And I enjoy those. So that's another opportunity and a resource for our scholars and their parents. So I'll make sure that I get this back out to the community as well. I just think it's so important. Sometimes we just overlook all of the amazing resources that we have, or people just honestly simply don't know. So we want to make sure that they have that. And then can you just talk about, so how do we handle crisis now? So we've talked about what are some signs, we've talked about resources to be preventative. Let's talk about if a crisis happens, you don't realize it as a parent, and a crisis happens at school. Talk to us about how that's handled in the school, about confidentiality, about what our mental health resources do in the school, and any steps that's there.
So if there is a crisis in our school, what we do is we reach out to the family and see what information has been shared before we share with staff and students. So once things are confirmed, then the mental health coordinators work with administration to craft communication that will be shared with staff and students within the school. Usually it's shared with staff first in a staff meeting, and then we create a plan for sharing it with students and providing student support. And what that looks like is the mental health coordinators, as well as we have additional crisis team responders who are made up of mental health clinicians, school psychologists, and school counselors within our district. We go out to the school and we provide services, and whether that's meet individually with students, whether it's meeting with groups of students, and we just provide support for those students. And then we talk and identify students that need ongoing support and communicate that with, the mental health clinicians and school counselors and psychologists within the building to follow up, as well as communicate with parents.
Okay. And I know you all can't be at every school all the time, nor do we have crises that occur at every school all the time. But in the event there is a crisis, how long do resources stay at the school?
So resources are available at all of our schools. So the mental health coordinators and crisis responders might be there for, 1 to 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. Whereas there are mental health clinicians within the building, and we really do talk to staff, administration to identify what their needs are so that we are able to provide that support and connect them with services. If a student needs ongoing support, then again, we're looking at our community health partners to provide that additional support as well. And then if we're talking about like crisis otherwise, we do have a partnership with iMind, and they have a mobile response team that is available 24 hours, 7 days a week, that provide mental health crisis assistance for scholars and families. And they also provide post-crisis care and follow-up. So they'll follow the family to ensure if there's any additional needs. And then for staff, because we're talking about everybody, we do have EAP, and when we're going in for crisis, the mental health clinicians are also, or the mental health coordinators and crisis responders are also available to staff as well.
Excellent, excellent. So one of the things I do want to also share is the PGCPS mental health website. So let me share that as well. Okay. Yeah, I think this is so important. Sometimes it's just a lack of knowing that all of these resources are available. Right. So here we have our PGCPS Office of Mental Health. And as you go down, you have some contact information, but this is what I think is super cool and so important is you can get help now. So you can click on each of these, whether it's the crisis text line, suicide and crisis lifeline is so important. 988, I think, is a number that we all should have access to. At one point there was talk about putting, I know it came through policy and governance, but putting some key numbers on the back of our badges for our scholars, and that's available. And I know that we also have some posters that's all around our schools, and we also have it posted throughout the year on socials. Here we have parents, school violence resources, and you can see the Wellness Wednesdays that we were just talking about earlier. You can get to right here as well. Oh, you also have resources for staff. And this brings me to another point. Let me stop sharing in a second. But administrative procedures, we've talked about identifying just mental health challenges if your students are going through things. But right here is depression and suicide prevention information that you can download. Love this. Crisis coping, school violence prevention, etc. So this is a resource that we definitely want to get out. before when you first came on, I talked about bullying and, how do we get in front of that so that we can get resources to scholars in advance when they first start feeling any remnants of that, not even remnants, but any pieces of bullying, or you feel as though you're getting bullied. How do you talk to your parents? And this looks like a great place to kind of start and learn more.
Yep. So we have resources on our PGCPS website regarding bully prevention, as well as being able to report. Um, so if your scholar comes to you and is talking about situations at school where maybe they're being bullied or harassed, then there is a reporting form where you can go complete the reporting form that goes to the administrator. Then it will start an investigation on like what is happening. The website also features some bully awareness and prevention strategies, some intervention tips about cyberbullying, like you talked about at the beginning of the forum. Is a lot of things are happening on social media and online. So there's some prevention tips on there for parents as well. And then in our school buildings, we're constantly talking about to our scholars about bully prevention. And a lot of our schools, some of our schools host what we call community circles, where they're talking about building relationships with the peers in their classrooms. And that's really an important part, is how do we build relationships and empathy and generate those SEL, social emotional skills.
Excellent. And so Ms. Perkins, thanks for joining, has a question as well. She said, how often are the faculty and staff trained on these resources that you talked earlier? It's a great question.
So staff are trained annually on these resources. School counselors usually provide trainings within our schools regarding what resources are available. So our staff are constantly getting this information.
And I think that's a great question because I'm going to share the resource again. So one second. Here's the resource for the mental health page. And I'm also going to put all of these links inside of the upcoming newsletter. I'll post them on my Facebook site as well.
And then Dr. Faison has a newsletter that goes out to principals and staff regarding like different parts of what builds our student service community.
Okay. And I see here that counselors are trained monthly on new resources and are asked to share. So that's important too. I think it's fair for a parent to ask their school or principal or counselor what type of training did they get this month? Is it being filtered into the classroom, or even just to know? I know we have a newsletter at the school where my son attends. There's a newsletter that comes out, but I think it's also great for PTAs and PTOs to be able to share this information in their newsletters. So I would suggest, or would you suggest, it's a question, them getting that information directly from the schoolhouse so that they can have that information? I guess also the information that we shared here, which I'll share again, Ms. Perkins.
Yeah, so our information is available in multiple avenues. So a lot of this information is posted on the mental health website. A lot of it is at the bottom of individuals' emails. But yes, like getting that information directly from the school counselor is probably a great idea, because I mean, administration, counselors, they all have this information, but I agree. How are we sharing it out?
Okay, I love that. So for Ms. Perkins, she asked, are the PTSOs able to get access to the newsletter to share with the communities? So how, Dr. Faison's newsletter, how is it distributed?
I think that's a Dr. Faison question.
It is. Let's see. She'll answer. So that's a good question. Will the newsletter goes to providers in schools? When you say providers in oh, is that the counselors?
Yes, the
Okay.
counselors.
So Dr. Faison, I think one of the things and the clinicians. So one of the things that I can do is, Dr. Faison, if you send me maybe the latest newsletter, or Miss Bell, if you send me the latest newsletter, then I can send it out to the District 9 community and they'll know what it looks like so that then they can share. Here is the news. Let me look. Let me just put this in the, hold on. Okay, so let me share what it looks like, and I'll make sure that I put this as well. Hold on. Um, I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that there's probably a number of folks who haven't seen this before. So let me just show what it looks like. And this is Miss Bell, who we're talking to now. Welcome, Miss Bell. Oh, this is very good information. Oh, mini projects. I don't see one for District 9. So we got to talk about how we can do some mental health mini projects. Let's see. So this is what it looks like. Gives some resources. What's happening inside of some schools. Oh, and if you want to share anything for the next newsletter. And we also have an email that we had earlier that I'll put up again. So I'll put this information in the in a note that I'll add to Facebook and some resources today. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. I want to make it a bit.ly because it's going to be a little tough for people. Let me just show them what the real email looks like. It's kind of tough to put that in. That's why let me show. This is the newsletter email, which is why I want to make it a bit.ly. Question marks, equal sign. So we want to
Yeah.
make sure that people are able to get to it effectively. Let's continue to keep going. Ms. Sonia had a question as well. Let me just pull that up. How much responsibility of the issues should be placed on the parents and their responses? And if the response is not positive, what are the next actions?
So we consider parents our partners. And so when a situation is happening, we partner with the parent again to address and talk about like what is happening at home, what is their scholars like normal demeanor, what strategies maybe that they've tried at home that are working, have they already accessed community resources, and then once we have those things identified, then we'll draft a plan about next steps and actions. And so whether that's connecting them with Hazel Health or the mental health clinician within schools, whether that is connecting them with outside partnerships, because maybe they need access to other resources. And then to address the second part of that question, we know that, not everybody may want to engage in services, but we do as a school district what we can to ensure that scholars are available to learn when they come into our building. So whether that is just providing short-term things like behavior contracts and reinforcement systems, whether that's like talking to the school counselor because they're part of the general curriculum. Our scholars always have access to services because what we do is make sure that our scholars have what they need in order to be successful.
Yeah, there was a second piece to her comment as well. And I'll say it is interesting talking this because I do think that in this partnership, parents have a large responsibility as well. I know that, for instance, I'm talking just as a parent, we are busy. And they are too. Everybody's busy, but I think just finding time to make time to spend with your child, and because that's how, remember, you were talking earlier about being able to say this isn't their norm. Well, to say it's not their norm means that you also know what their norm is. And it's not a judgment, it's just that we're all busy and sometimes you miss those signs. So I think that's why it's important to get these type of discussions happening. How do you talk to your scholar? Asking about, hey, what happened at school? Fun ways to ask that, like, who'd you sit with in the cafeteria today? Or some of those questions that might kind of lean into having these open discussions, and then having hard conversations. I know some of the conversations that I didn't have with my parents until much later on, you know? And what do you think about how parents can start having conversations and maybe just some starter questions for them? I know that wasn't Miss Sonia's question. I kind of took it in another direction.
That's fine. So I think what happens is going back to her original question. If it is a crisis and the student and the parent is non-responsive, then we can always file an emergency petition. But I think that this holiday break is a chance for a reset, right? Your scholar will be home for 2 weeks. This is an opportunity to sit down, talk to your scholar about how the first half of the school year went, and not just academics, but talking about socially, emotionally, how the first half of the school year went, and then drafting a plan regarding the return back. What are the goals that they have? And what would they like to see the remainder of their school year look like and feel like? So, this is an opportunity for parents really to get down in the trenches. Your scholar will be home for 2 weeks. What I like to do is oftentimes hard conversations are difficult for kids. I like to have a conversation, those hard conversations in the car where my scholar doesn't have to look me eye to eye, like she's in the back seat, I'm driving. So she doesn't feel like the extra pressure of having to be on because we're not looking at each other face to face. And oftentimes that is where our best, like, difficult conversations happen, just in the car while we're driving back and forth to gymnastics. So take this opportunity as a chance to kind of like reset, um, identify where your scholar is, and like have those hard conversations, because then that is when you're going to get to, is something else wrong that maybe I hadn't seen? And then what resources do I have to access services?
No, that's good. I remember when my son was in, I think, first grade or so, at one point they sent home these questions and questions of conversation starters. That's where I got the one about the lunchroom or who's sitting beside you in the lunchroom today. But it was really good questions to spark good conversation with your scholar to help pull out that information. Because if you're a parent, you already know the first thing that happens is you say, "How was school today?" And they like, "Good."
It's
Period.
fine.
That's it. It's the end. And how do you get those questions out of them? Miss Perkins asked the question. It says, does every single school have a mental health clinician in their school? If so, is that list of resources school wide accessible somewhere?
So every school does have a mental health clinician unless there is a current vacancy. And we work with agencies to ensure that those vacancies are filled as soon as possible so that students have access to services.
Yes. And so I remember that because I remember talking that through budget cycle, either last year or the year before, to ensure that we had funding for all of our mental health clinicians in school. And I remember when they were all filled. Now, I don't know about the vacancies now, but I think that is something that we could probably quickly find out. And if you want to hear about the resources in um, each of the buildings, then we can talk to the school. So we can ask the school principal, like, hey, do you currently have a mental health clinician that's here? And so we can also take a look at that for District 9 specifically. We have 21 schools here, but the answer is yes. And I think that we can determine if they're all filled in District 9, for instance. Let's see. Dr. Faison said vacancies occur from time to time for a variety of reasons. However, we have asked providers to provide support to schools in the interim, right? So there is always support, but we can, Dr. Faison, is it possible that we could get a list of I have the District 9 schools, but if there's a clinician inside of each one of those. So
Yeah.
while she looks to answer that, I want to also share, there was one more question. Let me just go back one sec. Oh, thanks, Ms. Belfield. So you are asking the right questions. Let me see. I just want to make sure we answer all of these. All right. So we talked about the websites that I'll also post. We talked about parents and what they can do, resources for parents. We talked about if responses aren't necessarily positive, there is the emergency that we can kind of call and pull. We talked about having hard conversations earlier. Ms. Perkins talked about uh, let me just show this. The conversations being different, absolutely, and earlier because they're exposed to so much. We talked about social media breaks that need to happen with our scholars, what we can do at home, how we can start with those. I think also the PTAs, PTOs, the organizations that we have that are parent filled is so important. And I know in District 9, one of my goals, not only when I was running, but definitely before I leave, is to have a parent organization at each school. And I think we underestimate the power of parents being active in school
Mhm.
because you truly can shift the culture in a school by way of parental engagement. And I think that's so important. I think there's so many ways to help out with the parent organizations, but that's really important to me. I think also, as we were talking earlier, Miss Bell, just um, especially around bullying and all this information, people knowing what the resources are, and that's the educate part that
Right.
we definitely want to do in the district. So as we wrap, I was wondering if there's anything else you want to share with the people.
I think that just taking time during this holiday season to be present and in the moment. Oftentimes we get bogged down with, the stressors of the holiday season, but just being present in the moment and being present with your scholar and your family, and just having that opportunity to reset as a family.
Oh, that's great. And then I'm also going to share this. Dr. Faison says sometimes responses aren't positive because of a stigma. So we help by providing other counseling, what the counseling process is. And I know in minority communities, um, therapy or help with even saying that you're having a mental health challenge sometimes is a stigma. So I can understand when parents push back and say, my child doesn't need that support. I don't need that support, etc. But and I think that was part of Ms. Belfield's question as well, is how then, when their response isn't as positive as what we're looking for, do we still get those resources in front of our scholars? And I think you've done a good job today saying, well, they're at the school in posters, talking about what you feel like, having more of those conversations. And if they're not happening at home, then our mental health counselors can have them. There's always just somebody to go to, and that's around. Let me click on it.
And Dr. Faison is encouraging all parents to ensure that you've signed up for Parent View and you have access to your child's Parent View account so that you can monitor their progress and then have those conversations with their teachers regarding any challenges or issues that your child may be having.
Oh, I love that. And also there is a student view as well. Oh, hold on. Let me show the parent view. So this is pgcps.org, and it tells you how to access Parent View if you don't already have it. I pray everyone already has it, because inside of there you can get some amazing resources. You can see the grades for your child. You could see the daily assignments that are missing. And that's a good way to spark conversation as well. So make sure you're accessing Parent View. I got a note about Parent View the other day, actually. about it working or not working in relation to the grades being the same. So I have sent that over to IT. But I know I have Parent View on my phone. Do you have Parent View, Miss Bill?
I do have Parent View on my phone, so we go over weekly, and so weekly we sit down and we have a conversation about her grades and her goals. And so, like Dr. Faison said, that's a good way to check in with your scholar. To say, hey, especially if you're seeing a decline in grades, like what's going on, what's happening, what supports do they need?
Mm-hmm. No, this is good. And Ms. Perkins said, thanks for sharing all of this information. There's a lot of work PGCPS is doing, and we as a community just need to be able to share the links and information to support others. I would say that that's so true. When you to go to pgcps.org, sometimes it's a little overwhelming. I know that there's been a lot of work in trying to just make it very easy to know where to navigate and how to navigate. So there has been work over time. But what I tell people also is, let me go to it. Let me share my screen really quickly again. Hold on, share screen. Okay. So when you go to PGCPS, let me just make it a little bit smaller. So it's not taking up the entire page. Okay. So when you go here, right in the right-hand corner is a search bar. So when you first go on, they have made it much easier to navigate. You can see Parent View right here on the first page. I think what's really important is to just scroll down the entire first page, which are kind of big hitters in information that you need to know. Right here is so important. Sign up for text messages, emails, and newsletters that come out. That's really important, and that can be done right here for everybody looking on. Also, I love this search bar. You can put all things in the search bar. So I just typed in mental health. So if you click mental health, you can see that a number of different resources come on, some of which we've taken a look at today. But it's always great just taking a look and exploring the resources that are available. So I will take these websites that we talked about today, and I will put them on my socials. And I do think it's worth, especially as we go into the new year, um, maybe Dr. Faison, one of the things that we could do is for the new year in the newsletter, maybe we can push that out and let people know about the resources that exist too, just as a refresher. I'm looking for Dr. Faison to answer.
Yes. He said yes.
Oh, good, good, good. I think that would be really good to do too. So thank you guys so much for popping on. Let me see if there's any other questions before. Yes. So Ms. Perkins said this is a good conversation starter tool as well. So thank you both for that. And thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it, especially on 8 a.m. on a Saturday. And we'll get these resources out.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye.
So District 9, today we went over um, a number of different resources for mental health. So important as we go into the holiday season that we just are in tune and just have a refresher to deal with some things with our scholars. I did want to talk to you all. Hopefully you all have already received the newsletter for this month. My District 9 newsletter that went out. There's a number of different items within that. And I want you all to also see our budget. So I'm going to share that. It's budget season, guys. And if you came to my last community chat, then we talked about the budget. Well, in general, we talked about that we will have budget updates. So I think I posted this on my Facebook page, but I will post it here as well. It's kind of long. I'll put a bit.ly. I'm pretty sure I did a bit.ly. Let me see. Hold on a second. Let me see. I think it's bit. Let's check it out. I'm pretty sure I made one for this. bit.ly / I think it's budget 26. Let's check it out. Nope. Maybe it's budget 2026. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So here it is. bit.ly / budget 2026. Okay, here we are. So if you go to bit.ly/capital B, so budget 2026, it'll bring you to what I'm sharing right now, which is the current budget. So there is a timeline. Well, one, it's 280 pages. So there's a lot of information to go to. So on January the 11th, which is a Saturday, I'll put something out about it, but I'll be having a just kind of community pop-up discussion about the budget to just kind of outline how to read it, all of the things, January 11th. If there's questions that people have, you can email them to myself and Tia. I'll put our email up in a second. But here is where, and we won't go through everything now because we're going to do that January 11th. Wanted to give you guys some time to kind of take a look at it. But what you can see is that it's broken down into each of the departments. So for instance, if you are interested in, let's just say, school support and leadership, you would go to page 249 because it talks about those things. If you're interested in capital programs and food nutrition, then you would go to our supporting services. And it's just a table of contents. I don't know why I'm going through that in so much detail. You can see how PGCPS is organized. You can do an outlook. It has a great outlook of how to kind of read the budget, where to go, what the elements of the budget book are. But here is what I want you to see. These are some key dates. Let me make them larger. Some key dates too that are really important. I definitely posted this. Oh, can you all not see that? Wait a minute. Right. I don't know if you can see. I hope it's. I don't know. I think you only can see the front page. I hope not. I hope not. So, but if you go to this bit.ly, you could scroll down as well. But I want you to see this. One sec. Let me stop sharing. I wonder if you could see that. Let's try one more time. Oh, she said no. Oh, I thought I was sharing. My bad. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, here we are. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, here's the budget book. Okay, now you can see me go. Okay, here's the budget book. It's bit.ly/budget 2026. Okay, so as you go through it, I talked about the table of contents. Yeah, and now let me get to the key dates. This is the org chart, what falls under each group. Don't forget, we're going to do this January the 11th as well. Gives you some overviews about how to read the book, the different elements. But here are some key dates. So some dates that we want that's important is January, February, March. Well, it goes all the way through June, of course, but the key dates for work sessions where you all can be involved, you all can give testimony, you all can ask questions. If you come January 11th, you can send me questions that I can ask while we're there. We could talk about. But also there's a board budget work session at 5, and then the public hearings are at 7, and we have that January, February twice. So we want to make sure everybody knows that January 23rd, February 6th, February 13th. Okay. And at the end of February is when we have the approval of the budget. So definitely get engaged before. Let's keep going. And we won't go through all 280 pages right now, but you can really see that it's very detailed. And this is the time to go through everything, okay? You can see here what the modifications, the proposed changes to FTEs in the board office, integrity and compliance, safety and security. And, you're able to kind of find out more and ask questions about those. We know that we're running in a deficit in our county, in our state, in our school system. And there's just some things that we can take deeper looks into. Okay. And as you continue forward, you'll go through all of the departments as well. Okay. Let me show you that. Hold on. An example. Hold on. I guess I could have gone to the Table of contents. All right. Oh, here it is. Organizations. Okay, let's just start with the Board of Ed. Okay. So as you go through here, you'll take a look at salaries and do subscriptions, all of the things. What are we putting our money to? And we can just start to ask questions around those. I think the best questions come with solutions. And so, if you pull from somewhere, then if you want to add something, then where are you pulling from? What is able to be reduced? Really, some creative strategies to help us to maximize the funds that we have right here in Prince George's County. Okay, so that's why I want to show you guys that. Let me stop sharing. And I have posted that. There are some key dates. And we also have the bit.ly right here. So we can definitely share that out to the schools. Make sure if you're looking on and you're catching a replay, bit.ly/budget 2026. Also, my recent newsletter has the link to the superintendent's overview of the budget, which is actually really good. It happened in our last meeting, and I think it's like at minute 44 or so. It's definitely in a newsletter, so hopefully you receive that as well. And that's it for today, guys. I wanted to the Take 9 pledge. So I added that in, and it is a real pledge. So you're taking a pledge for District 9, Take 9. It is the information that we get. We will share with 9 people and hope that they also share with 9 people. This notion of educate, advocate, and act together is more than a slogan. It is, we want to educate ourselves. We learned so much today, right? So much today. And it's really about understanding what resources are available and all of the things, and then sharing those out so that we're not the only one with the information. So super important. All right. I don't see any more questions. Thank you guys for coming. Look at us getting out 6 minutes early on this marvelous Saturday. This is our last community chat for the year. Thank you for your engagement this year. Thank you for showing up and showing out for our parent community summits. Thank you for being leaders in your PTSOs and PTSAs. It really, truly makes a difference. And this has been a hell of a ride. It's been amazing. You can definitely see the impacts that we're making step by step. Since I've been on the Board of Education, since you elected me December 22, I've been the vice chair of the Board of Education, and I've had the pleasure of being the chair for a small time, and it has been a pleasure to serve. Now, we do have new leadership on our Board of Education, which is going to take us into the new year. And as that continues, then I'll be able to delve more into District 9. And I think that that's a marvelous thing. So absolutely. Ms. Perkins said, thanks for your consistency. More to come in 2025. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Happy holidays to you. Be safe. Hug on your scholars. Every day is not promised. And that's the end. All right. See y'all in 2025. Bye.